And hello, Jets fans, and welcome in to another episode of Rich Sports Talk. Thank you so much for joining us here today. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you know some other Jet fans that'd like to join our community, let them know. And of course, follow us on social media. The link is in the chat right now. Rich Sports Talk, where we'll be giving our breakdowns and analysis. I've been talking about some of the prospects in the Senior Bowl that you can guys check out. So much more content coming. Again, guys, thank you for the community post as always, putting in a poll. And yes, I have listened. I gave you 3 options. And the next video we will be doing will be the Jets rookie grades, which will be coming out this week as we grade the rookies' performance from the 2021 draft class. So make sure you are there for that. That should definitely be a fun one. That episode again coming later this week. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of that. And of course, give us a shout out on Twitter and give us a follow. So last week I brought this up that the Jets got a very good break, and I'll touch on this shortly because I did a more in-depth analysis of this last week, which was the Jets got an unbelievable break. And I said, we all know that this is a crucial offseason. We all know that this is one of the most influential in the franchise's entire history just because of the draft capital, the position, the rookie quarterback, now going into his second year, the draft capital, free agency capital. There's so much that the Jets need to get right. And already, we haven't even finished the postseason. We haven't officially gotten to the offseason for the league yet. But the Jets already have gotten some huge breaks, which help with the potential turnaround. And also, they've gotten pretty lucky. You look right now, there's a lot of things that have broken the Jets' way in the last 2 weeks. The biggest one to me is still the Senior Bowl because you look at the prospects that the 49ers got. Deebo Samuel is a great example who they worked with at the Senior Bowl. You get to work with all these good prospects. You get to have a better idea of who fits in your system. And again, the Senior Bowl isn't necessarily about finding great players in the first round, but it's finding these valuable players later on, guys that you can find in the second, third, fourth, fifth round that can make an impact for your team, that can make a contribution, and basically make an impact right away. Nick Chaplin chat, what a wild card weekend. Absolutely. And again, you watch that 49ers game, that's what the Jets are trying to become. And again, we'll get into mock drafts a little bit more. We'll talk about more about that in depth as we talk about them going into the draft season. I have mock drafts coming. Don't worry, guys. And of course, I'm doing something different this year. I have a big board, but I'm actually going to share it with you, my top 50 prospects. That is also coming as well. But getting back to the Jets, the Senior Bowl was huge in terms of finding prospects, especially when you look at the Jets, all the draft capital they have this year and how important the draft is for them. Getting the Senior Bowl is huge, and the Jets haven't had basically a Senior Bowl since 1979, and that was the year that they got arguably one of their Hall of Famers and Joe Klecko, who should be a Hall of Famer. So it's huge to get the Senior Bowl. And again, the Jets shouldn't have likely gotten that because it usually goes to the worst 2 teams. But because of the coaching staff turnover and because the Texans hadn't finalized their coaching staff, they basically ended up getting the Senior Bowl, which was huge. But a lot of things have happened that have helped the Jets tremendously. There's one huge macro thing that I will get to, but a microcosm has happened that has helped them in the AFC East. How you do in life is often determined by the people around you. Life is easier to succeed when you are better than the people around you or the people around you are struggling. Like you see it every time in a job. Like if you have excellent employees that are on the A game all the time, it's difficult to really stand out. But you look at right now in the AFC East, the Jets have gotten some huge breaks over the last 3 weeks. And we'll get to the obvious one in a bit, but this weekend we saw the Bills absolutely demolish the New England Patriots. And this was a good thing for the Jets because the Jets seemed to play the Bills closer and play the Bills better when they had backup and practice squad receivers and a backup defense than the New England Patriots. But I digress. Either way, that was still an enjoyable game for Jet fans. But for people that are worried about the Bills, and yes, Josh Allen is an incredible quarterback, and he's going to be a problem for the next few years. But You look at the Bills right now. It hasn't happened yet, but this will be very interesting for them this offseason because I believe Brian Dable is going to get a head coaching job. And he's done an unbelievable job working with Josh Allen. How's that offense going to be, and how is Josh Allen going to be with a new offensive coordinator, maybe a new system, and again, we'll have to see what happens, but Brian Dable's had a huge impact on his growth. What else is happening in Buffalo? Their player personnel, their scouts, they're getting interviewed for general managing jobs. One of them was interviewed with the Giants this week. You're looking around the Bills right now. This is one of the problems when you get success in the NFL, why it's so hard to sustain success, because good members in your organizations, they're going to get offered other jobs. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Bills do now that they've had success and now that some of their key personnel is going to be moving. And again, Josh Allen has just gotten paid. They're not going to have the financial flexibility to go out and get additional pieces. I mean, they have an unbelievable roster. Right now, the Bills are top 3 roster in the NFL. I don't think that's a question. But with that salary that Allen's going to have, are they going to be able to afford 3 or 4 great wide receivers, 4 or 5 good offensive linemen? So the Bills are in the best position, obviously, in the AFC East. But again, we're going to see them start losing some key members of their staff. And how's that impact them next year? New England. You looked at the New England Patriots. That is what they're going to be going forward. I want to remind people that the Patriots spent $300 million this offseason to improve their team. And they could lose good players like J.C. Jackson this offseason. But the Patriots showed you, and this is what I've said about Mac Jones, is Mac Jones, when he came out of the draft and when he went to New England, I said, look, he's going to have the best rookie season of all these quarterbacks because he's in the best situation. But the one thing, if I'm New England, I want to see him be able to do is play in bad weather. Because one of the things we talk about Tom Brady all the time and his greatness and how good of a leader he is, how great his preparation is. But there's one thing no one ever really talks about with why he is so great. And it's a trait that really does explain a lot and really helps him become the GOAT. He is arguably the greatest bad weather thrower of the football I've ever seen. It could be blowing 30 miles an hour, snowing, hailing, and raining, and Tom Brady looks just as accurate as if it was 80 degrees and sunny. And I said that watch what's going to happen to Mac Jones, a kid who's been in Florida and Alabama. How's he going to react to playing in cold weather, in the snow? And basically, the Bills' last 2 games against the Patriots haven't punted. And the game they beat the Bills, their quarterback threw the ball 3 times. You look right now at Mac Jones, the last couple games in December, the last 4 games, 7 touchdowns, 6 picks. A lot of people say that they figured him out, and I do think people are starting to figure out. But again, he struggles to throw the football in bad weather. Mac Jones is showing you what he is. Mac Jones is a starting quarterback in the NFL. I think that that's pretty certain. To me, he's the more stable version of a Kirk Cousins. But with Kirk Cousins, you will get some great Sundays, but you also get some really bad Sunday and Monday nights. Mac Jones is in the middle. He's never really going to kill you. You might have a good game or 2 there that really pads the stat sheet, but he's serviceable. And what does that mean for New England? It means that they're going to be what they were this year. 10, 11 wins in the playoffs, because in the regular season, you can win with Mac Jones. You can out-coach teams in the regular season. I mean, when Bill Belichick's on the sideline, what, is he the best head coach on the field in 16 out of the 17 matchups, if not 17 of 17? Is he going to not have the best defense? And again, they're going to be playing marginal or average quarterbacks. But in the playoffs, you saw it this weekend. If you don't really have a great quarterback, it's hard. Look at the quarterbacks that got blistered this weekend. Jalen Hurts, Mac Jones. I mean, you look like they are guys that they're good, but they don't have that it factor. They don't have that wow factor. And you look at New England right now, they made the postseason again. But what was the conversation after that shellacking? Yeah, you heard a little bit about Belichick and the defense getting embarrassed, but what was the main topic? Do the Patriots have their quarterback? Think about that. The Patriots made the postseason with a rookie quarterback who defied expectations. And still, at the end of the game, because they saw what Josh Allen did to that team, and basically what happens when Mac Jones has to play from behind, and you cannot go to a New England fan and go, you feel confident in your quarterback? I mean, Mac Jones, he'll get the Patriots to the playoffs. He'll get them to a 10 and 11 wins, maybe a division title depending on the season. But again, you cannot tell me that Bill Belichick isn't sitting there in Foxborough right now thinking, I have to play Josh Allen twice a year. If Zach Wilson progresses to where we think he can be, I feel like the Jets would have the better quarterback. I mean, you look right now, who's winning? It's great quarterback play. And Mac Jones, again, he's a starting quarterback in this league. If you put him on a good team like New England, he's not going to kill you. He's going to execute the playbook. He's going to move the football. And for most of the season, it's going to work. But when you start playing in bad outdoor weather in New England, we saw it. He struggled. We saw it against the Bills the other night. He struggled. And look, he didn't play badly against the Bills. I'm not trying to kill him like he played horrible. It wasn't like he threw 4 interceptions or looked lost out there. But again, you saw the difference. And it's not just a gap, it's a chasm between Josh Allen and Mac Jones. And you can't tell me that Bill isn't probably thinking, should I think about maybe upgrading the quarterback position because I have to play that twice a year? So again, even in New England, who made the postseason, who spent all this money in free agency, they go into next year not so sure about their quarterback. And is he the guy that's going to take them over the hump? And really, I don't think so. And then we get to the big one, Miami. I've been saying this for a long time on this channel. I actually did an episode about this after the trade deadline, about one of the biggest wins for the Jets at the trade deadline was the fact that a certain move didn't get made. And that was Miami with Deshaun Watson. Because again, I do think that the Jets, Josh Allen is an incredible quarterback, but I do think that if the Jets get this right and build this the right way, they can be a competitive team. Maybe not for the next 2 or 3 years, better than the Bills, but at least in a position to get into a wild card spot and be in the postseason. But that gets a lot harder when Deshaun Watson's potentially in this division with Josh Allen. But the Dolphins basically have given the Jets a cookie this offseason. Because not only have they pretty much taken himself out of the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, because Watson has said he wants to play for a minority coach. He wants to play for Brian Flores. Like, he said that. That's been on the record. And not only that, but you look, one of the things I said, which was going to be hard for Zach Wilson, was he's in a division with 3 of the best defensive minds in football, McDermott, Belichick, and Flores. Flores is out now. And you can't tell me that Miami's success hasn't come from him. Again, 2 winning seasons the last 2 years. They started 1-7 with Tua Tagovailoa, and they still were in a position to make the playoffs this year. And again, what happened? It was a disagreement between the general manager and the head coach. And Brian Flores wanted Justin Herbert in the draft. The GM took Tua. And apparently there was a rift between Flores and Tua. But again, this was also a coach that didn't want Tua, was stuck with Tua, and wanted Deshaun Watson. He wants a great quarterback. And really, if you look at it, Brian Flores, you feel like has better idea of what the player personnel should be than the GM of the Dolphins. Because again, the Dolphins, I think, are making a huge mistake. They are going with, just say this out loud. The Dolphins had a choice between a head coach that had a winning record with Tua, who doesn't look like a good quarterback and is getting the most out of that team, or the general manager that decided, I think Tua is going to be better than Justin Herbert. If I, pose that to you rational people on my channel, most of you would probably go, well, you'd probably keep the head coach. But no, that's not what the Dolphins did. They went out and fired Brian Flores in a move that many people around the league have openly criticized. And it's come out in reports that Brian Flores is trying to find a destination where he can bring in Deshaun Watson. He is trying to find a situation where he can find an ownership group that's willing to take the risk and bring in Deshaun Watson to be his quarterback. And you look at the Dolphins. The Dolphins now have gone all in on Tua. They're out of the Deshaun Watson race. They're not going to do that now. Again, could you make the argument they'll feel pressure to do it? Yeah, but they've had the opportunities to do it. They've had the chances to do it. And I just have a feeling that there's a couple of teams that have now jumped in front of the Dolphins. I think the Broncos have more draft capital and are a more appealing destination. Because don't forget, Deshaun Watson has no trade clause. The Eagles now have 3 first-round picks that they could use to get him. Because you can't tell me that they'd come out of that playoff game where they just got beat by the Buccaneers. And again, the Eagles are the weirdest wild card team this year. Because again, people are saying, well, the Eagles had a good year. They didn't beat a team with a winning record this year. So again, you look like the Eagles were such a weird team because you're like, are they good? But again, if they get Deshaun Watson in that division, that's going to be huge. And so the Jets have lucked out hugely with Miami because not only are they not going to get Deshaun Watson now, but now they're going to stick with Tua. They got rid of a head coach that has given the Jets fits. And oh, by the way, a head coach that's beaten Belichick 4 of the last 6 times. I mean, Miami, have you looked over the last 20 years? How many coaches do you get that just beat Belichick, let alone have a winning record against Belichick? So again, Miami, I don't get what they were doing. I don't know what they were thinking, but I think this is going to be a move that they regret for a long time. And again, I feel like this locker room is going to be divided. I'm curious to see who they bring as the head coach because it can go sideways really fast. Like they have to bring in a coach that believes in Tua and that can keep that locker room together. Because I guarantee you there are a lot of guys in that locker room that are not happy that Flores isn't their head coach. I guarantee you there's a lot of guys in that locker room that are split on Tua. I guarantee you it's probably 50% love Tua and the other are looking around saying, I mean, we're winning despite Tua. I mean, we could get Deshaun Watson, who's better, but we're not. We fired our head coach because he couldn't get, I mean, he's getting the most out of Tua, and we were in a position to win the playoffs, get in the playoffs this year, but we fired a head coach with a winning record. Like, these are men that want to win games, and you just fired a head coach that was winning football games. I mean, to me, that is a huge advantage for the Jets because now all of a sudden Miami's in a bit of chaos. You don't know who the head coach is going to be. They're going to probably stick with Tua, who I don't think is a good quarterback. And I just look at getting Brian Flores out of there. Brian Flores is one of the best defensive minds in the NFL. I mean, he gave the Patriots offense fits this year. He gave Zach Wilson fits this year. He gave Lamar Jackson fits this year. And now he's out. And now all of a sudden you have 2 games a year that seem a lot more winnable today. And again, like I was looking at the Jets schedule for next year. They're going to get some good breaks next year because you look at the Dolphins who they have to play twice, quarterback issues and head coach issues. Then I looked around the rest of the schedule. The Bears going to have a new head coach and a new general manager. Who knows how that's going to go? You look at the Jaguars. They're going to have a new head coach, and I don't think they're as talented as the Jets. You look at the Browns. What are they doing at quarterback? Is Baker Mayfield their quarterback? The Steelers. Who's going to be their quarterback? Big Ben's moving on. The Broncos. Who's their coach and their quarterback? Potentially Green Bay. Is Aaron Rodgers still going to be there? Minnesota, they're stuck with Kirk Cousins, but going to have a new head coach. And then you have Seattle. What's Russell going to do? There's a lot of teams that are kind of in flux right now on the Jets schedule where you're not sure what their coaching situation, their quarterback situation, or both is next year. So already the Jets have gotten some very big breaks and they haven't gotten to free agency yet or player re-signing period. So to me, this offseason has started off very well for the Jets, and it's in a situation right now where they need to take advantage. And again, like I looked at their schedule, they have 9 road games next year, but you look, there's going to be situations where you're not sure what the quarterback situation is going to be, the head coaching situation. There's so much to take account into that. And again, guys, just looking at the chat right now, again, you can see my Twitter handle there if you want to give us a follow. Uh, you're right, which makes me feel RS will trade the first 2 picks for a player that can do now, not in 3 years. Watch AB Brown Titans last year. The Titans can't afford him. Tom Brady has to fight everything. Mac Jones looks like a game manager to me. Absolutely agree. NFC least is the worst division in football. I agree with that. But again, guys, I do think that the Jets have gotten a lot of breaks already this year. I mean, the Senior Bowl is huge. You look at their division now. Miami seems to be in chaos. And then I look at the schedule. Well, you look at the Jets next year. They're going to be playing a lot of first-time head coaches, potentially rookie quarterbacks, potentially new quarterbacks on teams. Again, like it's a harder schedule than this year, but you look, some games look like they got a little bit easier for the Jets. And that's what you want, especially with a young football team, with the still a young head coach and still a young quarterback. But again, the Jets going this off season, they're going to have the same coaching staff. They're going to have the same front office. There isn't change. There isn't turmoil. And you look around the league, I mean, we're seeing potentially nine coaching spots open up. We don't know what Dallas is going to do at the time of this recording. We don't know what the Raiders are doing, although the Raiders have fired Mayock. So my guess is they're going to hire a new GM and kind of do what the Joe Judge, what I think the Mars wanted to do, which was pick a GM and let the GM decide what to do with the coaching situation. And again, Cowboys, do they make a move from their head coach? Who knows? And the Cowboys might feel pressure too, because Kellen Moore, who's basically being groomed to be the future head coach, I believe, in Dallas, is getting plenty of coaching interviews already. I know he had one with the Vikings this week. So all of a sudden, you look around, could they make a move to keep Kellen Moore? Who knows? But again, like I just look around this division, the Jets, the Dolphins are going to have a new head coach. They're going to stick with Tua, which I think is huge because, again, it's a downgrade compared to Deshaun Watson. And even the Patriots, I mean, you saw them get absolutely blasted this last week. And again, I don't know what they're going to do in free agency. They can't be as aggressive as they were last year. Can they still have a good draft? And again, I think you've seen the ceiling with Mac Jones. He's a solid quarterback. He's a quarterback that's going to be efficient. And again, like you saw against the Jets, like the first meeting, they had him pretty much on the ropes the entire game. It was just the fact that Zach Wilson struggled against that elite secondary. And like even Mac Jones in the blowout win, like I really wasn't that impressed with him because the Jets are just so belligered with injuries, and then they lose their starting quarterback. And I mean, they basically were doing 5D lineman personnel because they didn't have enough corners and linebackers, and Mac Jones was just taking advantage of it. But again, a lot of your circumstances depends in the atmosphere you're in. It depends about the surroundings. And right now for the Jets this offseason, the surroundings have gotten a lot better when you look at their schedule next year in terms of new head coaches and new quarterbacks potentially, and especially in this division. Even a great team like Buffalo, they're likely going to lose key members of that organization because of their success this year. And the further they go, I mean, the more interest they're going to get. I mean, I can't remember who their defensive coordinator is. I don't think he's gotten a head coaching job offer yet, or interview, I mean. But that's someone that could maybe pop up there. I mean, you look, they're already interviewing personnel people for the Giants the Giants general manager job. They're already looking at Brian Dable as a head coach. So again, you look at the situation, you look right now at the atmosphere around the Jets. It's a good atmosphere, but you look around the rest of the division, Patriots lose a playoff game. I don't think the fan base and the organization is feeling good about Mac Jones for next year. You look at Miami, who's just in a state of chaos and fired a very good head coach. And you look at the Bills, who are clearly the class of this division, but are likely going to lose key members of that coaching staff. And again, Josh Allen has progressed beautifully, but he's also had the same OC since he was a rookie. Is that going to be a big impact on him? We'll have to see. Is he above an offensive coordinator? I do think he's still going to be a great quarterback, but will he be an MVP candidate? We'll have to see. And again, this is such a huge offseason and next season for the Jets. And a lot of things have to go right. But already, you have to feel good as a Jet fan because they've gotten some nice breaks already. The Senior Bowl is huge in terms of their draft, especially in a draft where they have so many draft picks and so much draft capital. The fact that they now are in a division where they fired a good head coach from one of their division rivals and a defensive coach that you didn't want to play twice a year is now out of this division. And on top of that, you look around the NFL, the teams the Jets have to play next year. There are a couple teams next year that their quarterback situations are uncertain. There's two teams in Seattle and Green Bay. Like, if they move on from their superstar quarterback, what are they going to look like next year? And again, the Jets are going to be facing a lot of new coaches next year. That is going to be something. Again, I think this team, if they hit it right, they could win 8 or 9 games easily next year. Like, even this year, if this team was healthier and they weren't absolutely belligered with injuries and Zach Wilson got to play the entire season, I feel like this team could have had an extra win or two and been like a 5-6 win team. So I mean, we forget too. Jets beat the Bengals and the Jets beat the Titans, who are going to be playing in the playoffs next weekend. So, but again, I look at next season. You're going to have the Dolphins with a new head coach twice. You're going to have the Bears with a new head coach twice. And again, you're playing a lot of young quarterbacks. You're playing Trevor Lawrence again. You're playing Justin Fields. You're playing Tua. You're playing potential rookies. I mean, especially their road opponents next year, because the Jets are going to have 9 road games. I mean, again, a lot could happen this offseason, but you look, what's the Browns quarterback situation? The Steelers are likely going to have a rookie or a new quarterback. What's the Broncos quarterback situation on the road? And even further down the line, is Russ still in Seattle? Is Aaron still in Green Bay? I mean, those are 2 tough road games. I mean, if Russell and Aaron Rodgers are there, those are both losses, but if they're not in Green Bay or they're not in Seattle, all of a sudden you go, I feel a lot better about the Jets' chances in those road games. So again, a lot of breaks already, especially facing first-time head coaches. Even the Vikings. Vikings are going to have a first-time likely head coach or a new head coach. Broncos, new head coach. And again, if the Jets could get one of those teams early in the first 4 or 5 weeks, and you get a matchup against a team that's still trying to figure out its identity, figure out the coaching staff, that could be a huge benefit for the New York Jets. Again, it's going to be a tough schedule next year. They're playing the AFC North. You got the Bengals, you got the Ravens, you got the Browns. I mean, those are 3 very good deep lineups. The NFC North, also talented. And even the games with the Jets got the outside games like the Jaguars. They're still, the Jaguars should be a team that the Jets could beat, but again, still have a good young quarterback. But I feel a lot better today than I did at the beginning of this offseason because, again, a lot of how your success is determined by the atmosphere and the factors around you. And right now, the Jets have gotten some huge breaks. And again, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. More Jets content is coming. Thank you, as always. I love the feedback we got on the channel. Make sure you subscribe and check out our community page. Have a lot of polls up there. Was asking what video you wanted to see next. My top 50 big board, my next Jets mock draft, which is in the works. Both are actually in the works. Or my Jets rookie report card for 2021 rookie draft class. That is coming later this week, guys. It's currently being worked on. I promise it will be done by the end of the week. You're not going to want to miss any of that. And look, if you have Jet fans that want to join this community, let them know. Follow us on Twitter. We give updates. I've been really following the Senior Bowl rosters, breaking down some of the big prospects. Again, they announced the Jets D linemen that they're going to be getting, and there's some really, really good ones that the Jets get to work with, and a couple that I'm very excited about. Like, I've been putting out the offensive lineman I was excited about. And today on the Senior Bowl Twitter, I mean, they're getting uh, a big kitty, the edge rusher from Penn State, who I really love. He is a freak athletically. Myjai Sanders from Cincinnati, Tyreek Smith, and Smith a bit under the radar. Haskell Garrett too. I mean, there's some pretty good edge rushers. Then an interesting prospect too, and I'm really curious what the Jets would think of him is Travis Jones. He's the massive defensive tackle from the University of Connecticut. He's not a great pass rusher, but he's just such a big defensive lineman, good run stuffer. I mean, a lot's going to come down to do they value Fatukasi? Do they want to give him a deal? I mean, Bo Mafi from Minnesota. I mean, there's some really good edge rushers, and these are edge rushers too, where the Jets, these guys aren't likely going in round one, but these are guys that are going to go rounds 2 through 4. And if the Jets can get a pass rusher in round one and maybe find another one in the second or fourth round or the third round, even just to help supplement that defensive line, could be huge. So, again, this is one of the big benefits of the Senior Bowl. You get to see these players up close, how they interact with your coaching staff, how they prepare, how they go against some of the best prospects in the country. So much to talk about as we get through this offseason. Senior Bowl. I mean, we're going to have all that preview coming up too. But again, guys, thank you as always for joining us. Really appreciate the feedback as always. We'll see you later this week. And make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the great content coming. But until next time, I'm Nolan Rich, and this is Rich Sports Talk.